In an explosive profile in the New York Times about Marjorie Taylor Greene, she kind of uncovers why she and Donald Trump had the falling out that they've had. And it's a pretty vicious one at that. She says that things really came to a head after the pressure to release the Epstein files came between herself and Donald Trump. Greene says that it was Epstein. Epstein was everything. So that's what she says in this interview with the New York Times. And that Trump was livid that she held a press conference with some of Epstein's victims and that she threatened to expose some of the other men who were alleged to have abused these girls. So when she urged Trump to invite some of Epstein's female victims to the Oval Office, she says he angrily informed her that they had done nothing to merit the honor. I mean, the guy who can't stop himself from holding endless press conferences with literal war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu thinks that Epstein's victims didn't do anything to earn a visit to the Oval Office. Got it. Okay. It would be the last conversation Greene and Trump would ever have. Now, he dubbed her Marjorie Taylor Greene, as we all know. And a day later, she actually received a death threat against her college-aged son, with Trump's new nickname for her in the email subject line. Greene promptly texted that information to the president. According to a source familiar with the exchange, his long reply made no mention of her son. Instead, Trump insulted her in personal terms when she replied that children should remain off limits from their disagreements. Trump responded that she only had herself to blame because he's an unbearable prick and you should expect him to have a pathetic response like that. Finally, Greene was very upfront about her own shortcomings during this interview with Robert Draper in the New York Times. He asked her, was there ever a point before 2025 where you thought, you know what, Trump acts like a man of the people and he talks about the forgotten men and women of this country, but I'm not so sure. She says, I was just so naive and outside of politics, Greene said with a wince of a smile, that it was easy for me to naively believe. And I relate to that. I definitely, when I was 100% partisan brained, I was naive enough to think that the Democratic Party would somehow be better than the Republicans on the big issues that matter the most, right? Issues of war, issues of the economy, issues related to Israel, for example. But tens of thousands of innocent people were slaughtered under Biden's watch, and there were never any brakes on that car. So I feel her when she says that. Cenk, what about you?
Yeah, so there's a ton of things that we disagree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on, and now a couple of things we agree on, and I'm glad to have the agreement. But that's not the point. The point is who's being honest with you and who isn't. So I'd rather have an honest person in politics or media that I disagree with more than a dishonest actor, because that dishonest actor who's pretending to agree with me isn't going to do anything they said anyway, right? So that's not to say that, I prefer Marjorie Taylor Greene to a Democrat. I prefer Marjorie Taylor Greene to the other corrupt Republicans who've been screwing us over our entire lifetimes. But what's happening with Marjorie Taylor Greene is really important, not because she's become any less right-wing. I think she's still way more right-wing than Scott Jennings or Mark Levin, et cetera, right? So I think that she's beginning to realize, our own side lies to us. And they don't actually represent our positions. So who represents the right-wing positions more on Epstein files? Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey, who say release them, and we've always wanted them released. Or Donald Trump, who says, nobody did anything wrong. His Justice Department says there were no one else that they would prosecute. They didn't want to release the files. He called it a hoax, et cetera. Well, it's not a question. There's no question about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey definitely represent the right-wing position. But the media just goes, no. Levin says move on. He just said it the other day to Mike Johnson. Nobody wants to hear these Epstein files. We need to move on for Israel. I mean, I didn't mean that. He didn't say for Israel, to be fair, right? And mainstream media goes, absolutely. All the right wingers, the real America First right-wing position is give Israel $100 billion. Don't ask any questions about Epstein, on and on. They just lie right to your face. So the fact that it's not just her, so many voters on the right wing realize, oh, our politicians are also dirtbags. Thank you. And so, my God, if I can get more Democratic voters to realize our politicians that take corporate PAC money on the Democratic side are also dirtbags. Anna's right. Did they do anything about Israel? Nothing. They gave Israel even more money. Biden did that. He's like, congratulations on the genocide. Here's 20 billion more for your genocide. But I can go on and on. Did they do anything about the Pentagon's bloated budget? No, the Democrats didn't do anything about it. They don't do, all those corporate politicians never do anything about anything. And the job of people like Scott Jennings, who are pundits in mainstream media, is to lie to you in mass to get you to bow your head, not to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, but to the uniparty that is pro-corporate, pro-donor, pro-foreign governments. So lastly, we're talking about coming to the White House, that the Epstein victims didn't deserve it. You know who came to the White House recently and many, many, many times? Miriam Adelson. How does she?
And terrorists. How
did she earn her way to the White House? Well, her and her late husband, Sheldon Adelson, as you've heard me say many times, gave over $300 million to Donald Trump's campaigns. And then when she was there, she patted him on the head and said, I'll give you 250 million more if you violate the Constitution and run for a third term because you're being such a good job of being my servant. And who's the traitor? He calls Marjorie Taylor Greene traitor. Do you know that the Adelsons flew out Jonathan Pollard on their private jet back to Israel? Jonathan Pollard was a literal traitor. This uniparty does not represent the right or the left. They represent the corrupt. Marjorie Taylor Greene is obviously on the right, and the rest of these people are utter frauds. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.